Good, good morning, good morning, good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. Let's dive right into some prep. So looking at ES, we've been on a nice little tear, nice little bounce out of this daily Ichimoku cloud. If you haven't tuned into prep for a while, or if you can remember, I was talking about in the chat and in prep when we were up here at our daily moving averages and we finally gave out, we could see a nice drop to the daily Ichimoku clouds where we bounced right at the bottom once and twice, and then we rip right back up for new all-time highs. And as we can see over here, for the last few days we had some good consolidation and then a nice push up yesterday. I'm sorry, Wednesday. Yesterday we saw some profit taking and back to some consolidation overnight. As you can see, we're up near the second Keltner up. The daily mean is down here near 5,200. And we're past the first and second Keltner yesterday, and we've come back to settle at that second Keltner. So for today, the question is, can we hold this second Keltner, see a continued rally up to this third Keltner for a strong Friday finish after a strong Wednesday after the CPI data? Or could we see some more consolidation as they load into options for next week? I'd say right now the very key support is at this 5,300. If we come back over here, it's kind of where we were topping out before we broke out, right? So if we come back, really need that 5,300 to hold, and this last bounce point near 5,287-ish. So if we do start to give out that second Keltner, these overnight lows, and fire this 1 hour squeeze to the downside, we could see a retrace to nail some of those key levels. Should those give out, the very big key target is the daily 8 at 5,275 and the first Keltner to the upside. So question is, can we stay at this second Keltner, consolidate and load into next week? Do we hold the second Keltner, push for new highs and up to the third? Or do we give out, buyers have lost control and they have some profit taking and sellers stepping in after some new all-time highs to take us back to some liquidity levels? And that'll kind of be a main theme today as we go through at least the indices. Also worth noting, I have VIX over here. VIX has a very big key level here at this 1238 up to 1250. And if I zoom out here a little bit, you can see that when we had some selling, we see VIX get up to 14, but then it comes right back to settle at this key level. And if I loaded VIX on a daily, you'd see that 1238 has been a pivot point where sellers have been stepping in. So if we were to get some kind of push up to third Keltner, we need to see VIX keep rejecting this 1238 like it's done pre-market, reject it repeatedly during cash session, and then roll over to try to get down to 12. That would green light the upside and to get back through all-time high that we set yesterday and further. But if VIX continues to hold, get back above 1238, 12 and a half, and make a push up to our destination sell zone, then we're likely going to see the seller stepping in, dropping to that 5,300, maybe rejecting it and heading lower. All right, let's move on to NQ. So we've had kind of the same story for NQ. We had that sell-off. We did slip through the daily Ichimoku, but I had some key levels there from previous technical analysis back here in January, right? And we held those January levels and rallied right back in just a week or two versus what took months. So buyers still strong. I know a lot of people start to see the selling and giving out and thinking, oh, time to go back to like daily 200 way down here. Not always. You have to check your technical analysis and go back to key levels. This is like a January low right here from late January, and we held that to bounce right back. So you have profit taking and then dramatic reversal for another load up and go for new all-time highs. The question is, can they just keep pushing, or do we end up with somewhat of a double top? Even though we've set new all-time highs, we could see selling step back in to get back to liquidity levels. So for NQ today, same story. Can we hold near the second Keltner and try to keep pushing? Looking at the overnight with our beast levels, you can see that we ran into resistance at the open range sell zone. They gave a dip around 4 a.m. right to our open range buy zone. These are our predicted levels that come from our beast tool that we provide every day to our members. But held that open range buy zone, took off, and we're trying to get up to that purple midline up, which is also, I believe, yesterday's open. Yep, yesterday's. So every day the open is the big solid white line, but then on the next day we mark it with a smaller hash line. What was yesterday's open? Because as you can see, we had a push, new all-time highs, then we gave out yesterday's open, rejected yesterday's open, and fell lower. Now we're fighting back. We're having a gap up. So yesterday's open could still be a point of rejection that sends us back to fill this gap up before heading higher. Just talking about how we kind of use our levels to navigate. So let's see if NQ can hold up near this daily Keltner and keep going. If we lose that daily Keltner during cash session and lose about 650, we could see a dip down to these overnight lows, down to that 620-ish. 617 is the overnight low. Daily squeeze, or I'm sorry, we have a couple of squeeze bottoms there. What is this one? That's the hourly, which is probably making this the 30-minute. Yep. So we have an hourly squeeze right near that overnight low. If we start to lose that and reject that 617, lose 600, then we're talking about a dip back to these key levels, just like on ES, the pre-market high from Wednesday and that cash session low. And as you can see, the daily 8, this blue line, has caught up to Wednesday's cash session low. So if we can't find buyers and sellers are too strong and we keep giving out and lose that 600, it could be a bit of a dramatic drop back to a liquidity level for them to load up again. You have liquidity levels with that daily Keltner, with that daily 8 moving average, and you have Wednesday's cash low, where they could consolidate and load up into next week should we see some selling. If we can hold up, looking for us to fight back up to at least yesterday's pre-market near that 733, we'll call it, and above that to all-time high near 760, where the top of the 1 hour squeeze sits. If we can push past that, the next daily Keltner is up near 18,890. So if we do get one of those Friday ripper scenarios, that's going to be the target. If we just see some consolidation or some selling, I'll be looking into next week's options, just like the rest of the market, to load up for more buying. Definitely don't want to fight the trend or be the first person to try to start shorting after we're near all-time highs. We'll have our, like for me, we'll have our signs. If we start to go over and lose 600 and rejecting, I'll be trying some shorts, see how far we dip down. But if we just keep holding up, I'm going to be trying to buy that dip, right? Moving on, let's see about YM. And since we have a little less than 10 minutes, I'm going to try to breeze through some of these names a little quicker. YM's been setting new all-time highs as well. And right now we're dipped down and pretty much right at this 40,000, right? Held our overnight, our opening range low, We held our open range buy zone, setting that overnight low down near that 950, so keep an eye on that. If we start to reject and see selling, want to see that 950 hold and this 940 where the 1 hour squeeze sits. Below that, if we start to lose that 1 hour squeeze, then it's reselling back down. Kind of the same thing about Wednesday's cash session low, but it also aligns with Monday's cash session high. So big key level right near that 39,800. Should that give out daily 8 below and that first Keltner? Same scenario in all of these. We can hold up here, push through 40,000 in the overnight highs. Then we're trying to get back up to these highs from yesterday near 100, 150, 200, and try to get up to 287 where that third Keltner sits. Moving on to Apple. Apple's been very strong in this rally. As we can see right over here, got down near some key levels and held and took right back off to 190. Yesterday got up near 191, and we have a big fat 1 hour squeeze. So this lends to the idea that we could see just consolidation today. We could see Apple, a big market mover, just kind of stick around, about a 1 point wide. And if you go to the ends, you could say like a 1.5 point wide 1 hour squeeze. We see a big consolidation here. They could be loading into some calls next week. They could be also loading into some puts if we're going to see the retrace next week. When I talk about the retrace, I just mean coming back to moving averages, right? We tend to stick around moving averages and then we get a big push away. And every so often, we're going to get a flash sell back to those moving averages before a continuation. So as we're making, new all-time highs on indices and whatnot, we got to be just cognizant of what it's going to mean, what it's going to look like to have a quick retrace. So let's see if this 1 hour squeeze holds today. If not, again, always targeting liquidity levels. We lose that 189, we reject, and fire a 1 hour squeeze down to 187 where that second Keltner sits, 185.5-ish where that daily 8 sits. Moving on, if we can hold up and keep pushing through 191, we're up near third Keltner, but for this, we still have some highs to deal with. Sitting here near 195, call it 196, right around there. That's the next target up. If we can keep pushing through yesterday's high and get through 192, then that's going to be the first target, all-time high, next target. Moving on to AMD. Chips. How have the chips been doing? They've been definitely helping lead a lot of the push up. Looking at AMD's daily chart, had up some big profit taking that's been going on. We got down to settle, had our earnings. Chips earnings have been going well, and we're bouncing back up near this daily 50, which sits above 168.75, which we are very close to tapping pre-market. Strong chip action pre-market. So definitely keep an eye on chips today and going into next week. This is a daily squeeze that we have now fired to the upside on AMD after plenty of consolidation and after an earnings. And we had a gap down on earnings and we have now filled that gap. So let's see if we can get through this daily 50 and keep pushing up to what is the third Keltner at 175-ish, 174.5. Should we reject this daily 50, then we're just looking at yesterday's levels, pre-market low to get back to. Should that give out daily moving averages? Pretty easy targets on AMD. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon. So much like the market, when we saw that selling, got the daily Ichimoku and bounced, set some new highs, and now retrace back to these daily moving averages. Amazon looking a little weaker, but we do have a big 4-hour squeeze that's supporting us, and we have the low from Wednesday. So let's see if that can provide enough support to turn Amazon around to join the rally that a lot of the other names have been seeing the last week or so. Let's see if we can hold, that 182.73. At the worst, 182 is the furthest I'd like to see a dip, and then hold at 183 to take off higher. If we can hold that 4-hour squeeze bottom, looking to get back through these daily moving averages, daily liquidity levels, and push back to the top of the 4-hour squeeze and yesterday's high near 187, 188. Although it's a little weak pre-market, definitely keep an eye on it, because if it can find its legs and everything's going to rally today, this could be a great spring back. Got a nice range from the last couple of days. Let's see if we've explored the bottom of it enough, if buyers step in, and look at that. In the last few seconds, from the bottom of that squeeze, right back up to new pre-market highs. So keep an eye on this sucker today. Amazon could want to move. Let's see what's next. Microsoft. Definitely been one of the stronger names like Apple, pushing up near all-time high, which sits up at 430.82. And we have a third Keltner and a daily squeeze top that sits above near 433.5 up to 435. So we have our upside targets. We have all-time highs sitting near 430. So let's see if we can continue to hold 420. This daily Keltner around 419. Got a 1-point zone of support and a 1-hour squeeze bottom. If that can hold and we see a rally today, looking to get through yesterday's high, 425.5, fire that 1-hour squeeze up and make that push for all-time high and the top of the daily squeeze. We start to lose 420, 419, then you want to watch for a dip to 415, 415, 414, where the daily 8, daily 50 sit. Moving on, let's see, NVIDIA. NVIDIA. 974 all-time high, dipped into that Ichimoku cloud, held these key levels near 806, 816. We're way up here now at the 940s, so 1-hour squeeze bottom near 935. Want to see that hold up today, 935 to 940. If we can hold there, looking to push up through pre-market high around 949. Yesterday's high 958. Carry up to 960, 970, top of the daily squeeze. Third Keltner sits up near 983. If we start to lose that 935-ish, then it's a dip back down to 925, 922, where the Keltners and the daily 8 sit. And we're getting into the cash session, so let's try to wrap this up quick. Take a quick look at QQQ. QQQ wanting to see 450 here, 451-ish, pre-market low, and 1-hour squeeze bottom hold up today. We start to lose 450 in that second Keltner, then it's back down to those same key levels and the daily 8. If we can hold up here, 450, 451, looking to push through 453, 1-hour squeeze top, get back through yesterday's high, up to this third Keltner at 454 and beyond. I skipped over Google. Let's take a quick look there. Take a quick look at Meta. SPY, Tesla, and we'll wrap this up. Alright, Google on a nice flag. Definitely watch for the support around that 173.5, 173. We start to lose that. 172, 171.5 where the daily 8 sits. If we can push, getting a nice bounce so far. Looking to get through that 175. Try to get up to that third Keltner, 177.5. Move on to Meta. Come on, load the Meta. It's slowly loading the information, but it still needs to update the chart. There we go. Meta, we have this consolidation from Tuesday, and that low around 467 down to 465. Don't want to see us go below that, or we're heading back to 460, 458. If we can hold up 165, 167, and pop back through 470, looking to get up to 475, 77, 480, 482, and back up to this daily 50, and that first Keltner up near 485. Moving on to SPY. SPY looking for the 1 hour squeeze to hold near 528. Should that give out, 526 where that second Keltner sits, and 524-ish where the daily 8 sits. If we can hold up 528, looking to get back through 530 where the 1 hour squeeze sits. And kind of where we were before the end of the day sell-off. We can get through 530, looking to get through 531.5, yesterday's high. We are up near the third Keltner, so through yesterday's high. And, all-time high. It's just where can we keep going? And we'll move on to Tesla. Alright, Tesla held some key levels, bounced up to another key level, now coming back right in the middle and consolidating for, what, kind of 2 days now after rejecting and selling off. Holding the daily 21, let's see if it continues to hold, and hold above this 172 where the 1 hour squeeze sits. If we can hold there and get a good bounce, looking to get through 175, 176 where the 1 hour squeeze top sits, then up to 177.5. And back to this 180 key level where the top of a 4 hour squeeze sits. We start to lose 172, 170 where the daily 50 sits, and the bottom of that 4 hour squeeze. Then it's back down to these key levels. Pretty simple, folks. So, thanks for tuning in to Prep. I'm going to stick around on here if you guys want to keep watching. I can let all my charts load up and get back into my normal mode. Go ahead and hit NQ like this. Let me unlink a couple of these so that NQ loads there. And hey, as I look at the YouTube chat, good morning to Trade to Fly and Chris. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And as we get back in the swing of things with our regular scheduled programming, going to be doing more preps. Definitely going to, in the next couple of weeks, shoot to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if possible, start going to everyday preps again like we used to. Just slowly getting back into the groove of leading the room on a daily basis. Let's see, we got our charts loading up over here. I definitely want, instead of Netflix, give me an Amazon over here, please. Apple already looking strong, bouncing off that 1 hour squeeze bottom where it opened, getting up near those pre-market highs. Tesla looking weak, getting down to our open range buy zone near 172.5. See if that can hold. Microsoft, a little bit of a tanker at open, down to this 419, 420, just like I was talking about. So let's see if that support can hold. If we keep slipping, definitely want to see this, around 418 hold. Below that, we're going to see further. NVIDIA had a quick dip and response right back up. So chips still looking strong. AMD on the bounce as well. Like I said, chips might want to keep leading. AMD with the new high. Meta's still a little weak, but bouncing at the open range buy zone. Google showing up and bouncing at the open range buy zone up to the open range sell right now. There's Tesla getting that bounce, trying to get back up and through that pre-market dumper. Load up my Amazon chart. I want to see what's going on there. IWM slapped the 1 hour squeeze coming down near the bottom. Might be a good spot for longs on IWM. And Q with a little dip down to that overnight open near 640, bouncing back up near that open range sell zone. See if it rejects and goes back for another test, or if we get a strong bounce. YM remaining a little weaker. Might have a dip down to that open range buy zone near 39,960. There we go, Amazon. Holding that 183.5 so far, trying to get through this pre-market high. See if it takes another dip or if Amazon's going to be one of those runners today. VIX is giving us a pop up above that 1238, and we're getting near that 1250. So it's going to be one of the key levels today. If VIX gets through this high from yesterday, it's probably not the highest. Oh no, it is the highest high. Oops. There we go. So if we get through that 1250 and yesterday's high, we're going to see further selling and maybe firing some of these squeezes to the downside. Ooh, Amazon, what are you going to do? Apple pushing for more. Tech buying is in effect so far. Let's see if it can continue. Chips having a little dip. AMD set that high and right back to open range buy zone. Let's see if we get another bounce and if chips are going to try to lead. Meta's still just settling at open range buy. Google having a little pullback. Same with Tesla. Apple remaining strong. ES a little weak. Might want to dip to the open level. Should that give out? near 53.18.5-ish, then it'll be down to 53.14. But if we can continue to hold up and get through 53.20, 3.25, then it's up to 53.30. And I'll switch back over here. Just for a second. Kind of get my focus charts a little better set up. There we go. SPX trying to hold this open range buy zone near 52.95. We'll go ahead and see what the 5300's doing. I'll put this up here actually. And let's look at like the 5310 actually, because that'll be up near the open range sell zone. If we're talking SPY, I'd be looking at that 529, 530 call, 528, 27 put. With our beast tool to keep an eye on things. We got to keep an eye out for, since Apple's in this tight range, right? Reject this 1 hour squeeze top and go to retrace the lows. Could tug the market down just a little bit. And you know, looking at like SPY and QQQ, so far we are just contained in our open ranges, right? Our predetermined levels that show up on your charts automatically. We are contained for now. If we could have a little dip. Not a big one, just a little one. We might be able to get that 5310 call at a decent price. Looks like $1 to $1.50 is the beast zone. There we go. It's slipping a little more. These puts have a pretty wide beast zone, meaning that they could get some pops and fluctuate and dip down and entice folks, right? Just enough for calls to hit their beast levels. So I'm okay with a little dipping right now. We still have not completely hit this 12.5, 12.52 yesterday's open. So we have a little room for VIX to get a couple more pops before a rejection or rollover. But, you know, definitely if you see a good setup, I'm not saying you can't attempt longs. But a little interested to see if we're going to lose some of these open levels and dip down to the pre-market lows for a test. ES is already kind of getting close, and Q's still trying to hold up. Ready's kind of tested its pre-market lows and catching a little bounce. Catching little bounces here, but have to see if they're going to stick. Alright, yeah, it looks like for the folks that are tuned into YouTube, I mean, you can answer in the Discord or on the YouTube chat. I mean, do you want me to leave the YouTube stream up? Or I can switch over to voice chat and just broadcast in Discord. Looks like one of you already kind of voted for Discord. Let's pop back over to our focus, or I mean our big board. AMD dipping a little further down to our midline down and near that 165. Let's see if it can hold. Amazon pushing a little more. Told you this could be a good one to watch today. NVIDIA still holding that open range buy zone. This ticker down here is a combined ticker. It's basically like the Mag 7, all combined into one chart that our B system still works on. So let's see if it wants to dip again to test this low. You know, basically a dip in tech across the board to get down to a key point and then load up for a push. Here comes NQ with a little further slipping. Can't fight trend. Right now the local trend is down. We keep rejecting our whole moving averages. And if you're not privy to it, you know, I have released tools and given them to everyone for free on whole moving averages. I like to use those for my measuring of trend and continuation and reversal and that kind of thing. In the past, I've taught using exponential moving averages, but lately I've been, or a while ago, made a shift back to using whole moving averages because I prefer the way that they help me measure trend and reversal. They're a little more elastic than exponential moving averages, so they kind of tell you, like, right now the local trend is down. Now what it takes to flip that trend is getting back above these holds. So like on NQ, getting back above 650 and then holding on retests means that whole trend will flip back up for support. And you can look at it a number of ways. You can also just draw a trend line from the highs, something like that, right? SPY is just wedging and trying to hold the support of the open range buy zone. If we can hold, and then break through the downtrend, we're off and running to the upside. But if we keep rejecting, and lose our support, then we know we're going to the next target down. And again, on the options charts, like on those calls, haven't taken the shot yet, even though we've gotten little bounces, because the trail line is telling me we're still under resistance, right? If we continue to hold, we see some pops through these trend lines from highs and get above the trail line and turn it into support. That's when the calls look a little more appealing to me. YM has caught a nice bounce, so we're seeing rotation as we consolidate. Right, we still see ES and NQ under their clouds getting rejected. We see YM above its clouds, ready, trying to push, or above its clouds and trying to push. So we're seeing rotation into YM and into small caps, while we see some profit taking in tech. Apple still flagging, bull flag. Let's see if it holds. If it loses 190, then it's going to probably go dip to retest 189 and the pre-market low. That's kind of why, looking over at these puts, while they are seeing bounces, they're not taking off because we're having some controlled selling on some indices and controlled buying on others. It's rotation, rotation. Kind of a slow start to the day. Looks like tech's not going to be ripping right out the gate, but and between 10 and 10:30 is when we can see those tech dips and hard reversals and taking off again. So right now, the name of the game is patience. Patience for the upside. Or, start to take some shots here and there. NQ still dipping, YM still popping, rotation, rotation. SPY started to peak above that trend line, right back under. Because NQ took a dip. Whoops. There we go. And like I just did, I like to update, trend lines like that. We only had 2 wicks here to really work off of. We just saw a wick through just a teensy bit, so I'll update my trend line there. Just to say we could keep tapping and slipping through and hit that open, but still roll over again. Patience is key. And Q caught a little bounce at 635, but if it can't get back above 650, then those are just tiny bounces, really. For me on NQ, kind of targeting if we see more slipping down to this 612 in the bottom of the hourly squeeze, right near the overnight low of 617. So you got a 5-point range there of support. And yes, it could easily slip down to like 606, 605. Well, it's, if it gets down there. We'll see. What are you guys sizing up? Anybody looking at any trades on tech names, on indices? What are we sizing up out there? There goes NQ dipping a little further, losing that 630. Down to 625. Like I said, kind of expecting a dip down to here. 620. And I know sometimes, folks will say my charts look busy, but it's all providing little trades here and there. If you look at this SPX put, hits the trail line around 250, 260, bounces up to 300, 320. And so, that's a trade, right? 250 to 320, boom, lock it in. 250 to 320, boom, lock it in. Pay yourself a little bit, take your shots. Those calls got down near their lows and catching a little bounce again, 250 to 300. You work each angle and eventually one side's going to give. We got down to that open range buy zone on NQ, catching a great bounce. Let's see if they want to go back and retest that bounce, since it happened so fast. 2 1-minute candles. Bounces from Meta at open range buy zone. Pushes on Google for new high. Microsoft down to destination buy zone, 418. See if the sellers or the buyers step in there. Nvidia bouncing off that 1 hour squeeze bottom right near 935, just like we talked about in prep. So the buyers are present right where we predict. So you could be potentially taking those shots on longs. Amazon pushing for new high. So tech is starting to wake up. Google super strong. Talked about this, that Google and Amazon looked pretty decent pre-market. Chips still kind of chilling near their lows, but all they have to do is have a nice pop and they're turning up with everything else. SPY starting to get through trend line a little bit. Has the open level to deal with. And VWAP, I believe, yes, sitting around there as well. Now on the calls, that trail line is slipping under the price action, so as long as we can continue to hold those lows, trail line becomes support. We could start to see a bigger bounce. But again, we have to see if we want to retest the bounce that just happened on names like NQ.
Order filled. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order filled.
Nice bounce on NQ. Is it going to hold?
Order filled. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. submitted. Order filled.
Oh no, my bad, guys. I've been on mute. I had to mute for a second, and I thought that I unmuted, but it didn't completely click. So I'm not sure what was missed. I hit some shorts on NQ. Here, let me get a better NQ chart up here. There we go. So when we got that strong bounce and started to get above these whole MAs, I hopped in along to take it up to 650 near VWAP. I locked in profit there and switched short. I got in a short at 649 and wrote it back down to this open range buy zone to lock in profit. And now I'm just seeing, can we actually hold? I mean, I have a runner on the short, but I'm also just seeing, do we hold that open range buy zone, kind of establish a higher low, or are we just going to get little bounces and make a full H to get a little bit lower than that open range buy zone down to this key level and the bottom of the 1 hour squeeze? So I already locked some profit up and back down. Kind of watching these bounces to see, is it time to reverse back up again? Or do we short through a new low for the cash session? Again, that 612 is just one of my big key levels, right? Just like the 709, which was previous all-time high, and this 485, which we broke out from on Wednesday. And yeah, we're getting some nice little bounces, but again, like this is my 1 minute chart, this is my 3 minute chart on NQ. We're still below the whole moving average on the 3 minute and VWAP, right? And as we're starting to look decent on the 1 minute, I'm still just watching the bounces to see, do we reject and lose the holes again and make the H, or if we can hold the holes on retest, maybe it's time to take it up to VWAP again. And as you can see over my NQ 15-minute chart, we've got a range in this candle from that 650-ish down to that 620-ish. So plenty of room in this 15 candle for the next one to still explore that range before a reversal up or another dump to test the key level. So again, haven't really taken any options trades yet. The calls I'm keeping an eye on getting closer and closer to their beast. Let's throw on like a SPY 530. Oh, those are pretty darn cheap, actually. So we might look at the 529 here in a second.
Order canceled.
And like right here, if NQ can't get through its open level around 642 and a half, that's not a good sign for upside, and we could make a lower high still and roll over for an H. Have to get through that open level, use it as support to get back above 650 for a true bounce and change of direction. And you know, it's basically a W, right? Boom, there's the bottom. Here's the middle. the neckline, if you will. Double bottom, pretty much. Have to push through that neckline to make the W pattern complete. Otherwise, this is just an H into an H into a potential double bottom, but lower high turns it back into an H, right? Let's go ahead and update this trend line. That's why, I had that trend line and we started to get through. That's not where I buy calls, right? I don't buy the breakout. I'm not a breakout trader because all too often you buy the breakout and boom, it dumps to a way better price to get in to something like a long, right? Still being patient on the longs. Let's change this view a little bit. Even the SPY calls aren't quite down to their buy levels. Let's look at like the 529.
Order submitted. Order filled. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order submitted. Order filled. Order canceled.
There's also a lot to be said about just like always protecting your capital and taking profit. I just hit a little short again at 640, got down there 630, 631, and I moved my stop down immediately to like 635 or whatever, 634. And then when it starts to bounce, I've protected my capital, at least half of my earnings, right? From that, I protect, and now we're bouncing higher. And I didn't try to short again. I caught a piece, set a stop, brought it down as it worked for me, and then boom, look at this bounce, right back up to 650 on NQ. Very strong bounce. Will this be the one to get through and take off? I don't know. I feel like we could actually have one more dip, but have we sat down here long enough for them to load? Potentially. Let's look at this SPX call again. We started to get through that trail line, then we came down and consolidated at it. for about 10 minutes. I'm not sure that's enough time for them to really load the boat. Am I ready to short NQ again here at 650? Not until it fails. I'm not going to just jump into a short as we pop up to test it. But if we can't get through it and we roll over again, I'm going to jump in a short real quick for a third dip. Because they're testing the buyers right now, right? We got down, saw a great bounce. We got down and tested that bounce again. Like I talked about when we bounced the first time, I said, are they going to just let that be the bounce? They're probably going to go back and retest it. We got that retest. Now we're back up to where we rejected after the bounce. Could we get through a little bit? Yeah. And then still roll back over for another test? Yeah. Could we reject at the exact same spot? Yep. All of that. But I'm going to watch and see what happens. All too often when folks are, using this system, they think the first test is always the best test. I mean, there are times when that's true, right? But there's also the majority of the time where we should watch the test, like this 650, bouncing back up, set 2 consecutive higher lows. We got to get through this 650 like I talked about for any upside to really start taking shape. So I'm going to sit here and watch. What are they going to do at this 650? They keep trying to push higher and get pushed back down. If it rolls over, loses like 645, 640, I'm going to be hopping in for a short. But actually, I'm going to take a little bathroom break. Because I don't mind missing if we do start to roll, and I don't mind missing if we do start to get through, because there's going to be a pullback to retest. Either way. Starting to reject that 650 a little bit, but bouncing at 645, right back up to test it again. So I'd rather not sit through this. I gotta go use the restroom. I'll be right back. But I'll leave my screen up, and hopefully it'll be helpful for everybody to kind of watch what I'm watching. Hey folks, I am back. Sorry about all that. Let's see. Um, when I stepped out, we were kind of near this open level. Looks like we got up through and made it up to near our open range sell zone. Couldn't quite get up to that pre-market high just yet. Having to pull back to the open level. Overall, just looking like consolidation. Apple is firmly pinned between in that 1.5 point range, right? SPX made the bounce at the open range buy zone, got up to the open level, now coming back down for a test. Now what we'll find is that those calls, even though we're not back down near the lows, right? Those calls are back down near the lows. This is part of the manipulation when it comes to 0-day options, right? And even looking at SPX with my whole clouds, you can see we had a good push up. We have some sideways action. We run into a wall we can't get through. And when we start to dip into the holes, it's down to test. It's sometimes what I like to refer to as a vacuum through. Right? I have a series of different length whole moving averages. And when you start to violate or slip into one, you get a vacuum through to the other ones. Those set up great trades. I like to call them vacuum trades because it just sucks right down to the next whole moving average. We've slipped below a little bit and back into that open range buy zone. So, we found buyers on ES, on NQ, and they stepped in to show their hand. But they ran into a wall of sellers and they backed off for a bit. Those sellers took control. Now we're right back at the same spot where the buyers got their position. And you got to think this is what big money does, right? They load in and cause the move. And then as you're loading in, they start taking profit. And then start hitting people's stops and selling happens and they've taken profit. Sometimes they're hedging, they're buying puts and locking profit on those, and then they'll repeat the trade again. Sometimes they won't repeat it. They'll bounce like they're about to, and it's really a setup for shorting even lower and getting a better entry even lower. A lot of folks think with something like this, if they do let loose and head lower, then it's going to be selling the rest of the day. That's also never the case. Well, I mean, sometimes it's the case, absolutely, but it's definitely not always the case. They love to prove that the upside works, lock a ton of profit, and then they'll violate their entries. They'll go below their entries, leaving some runners making profit on the dip, and they'll pick it up lower and take off higher, right? When big money, when institutions are trying to stage these bounces, right? It's not always just a bounce and go. A lot of times there's that retest, shakeout stops, get people loading along right here, do a dramatic dip, and then right back up within like 5 candles, and then take off. So that's definitely why I measure at different time frames, at different trend reversals, right? We're starting to see a little bit of a bounce and potential trend reversal at the same spot that we did before on a 1 minute, but on a 3 minute, we haven't registered that we're fully trying to reverse yet. We are still in a downtrend. And on the 1 minute, we still have our holes telling us we've reversed into a downtrend. So we got to watch for bounces to reject those holes and come back down. If bounces get through those holes and hold them, then it is, again, just loading the same spot, trying to complete this W. I think I showed that W earlier. When we first tried to make it, we had one more dip and then we took off. And now it's setting up a bigger W. Look at the 15-minute. Boom. Up. Boom. Could go back up again. So we had a smaller W on a 1 minute that really was just the first leg of a bigger W on the 15-minute. I just kind of talking through patterns and trying to help folks recognize things. And on VIX, held the open level, got back up to this 1238, and got through it just a little bit, but now we're just kind of pulling back and glued to that level. And man, look at SPY. When I talk about it can be a day of consolidation, this is what I'm talking about, right? We have the open range on SPY. First we got to pop up, then we dipped, we reject the sell zone, we dip to the buy zone, consolidate, pop up again, reject the sell zone, down to the buy zone, consolidate. This is what I'm talking about. These calls are now getting close down to this beast. And I started the day watching this, when it was up at $4, right? And I said, nah, I want it down at $1.50. And we just tapped $1.50 and bounced to 2. So now is the time to keep an eye on this call. Again, just talking about upside plays, right? Can we roll over, fire the squeeze to the downside and sell off? Yes. Can we hold the squeeze bottom, bounce up to the top, fire the squeeze up? Yes, right? Let's look at like the 528 put. How's everybody doing out there? Anybody hit any trades? Anybody get on in this Google that took off and broke the open range? Ooh, or even Tesla. Look at the reversal on Tesla. Held the open range buy zone. took off to the destination sell. Oh, missed that one. Definitely took my eyes off Tesla early on. Didn't look like it was doing much, but Tesla loves wedges. It loves to wedge and then just blast off. Microsoft still looking weak. Oh, nice. You hit some SPY 529 puts. There you go. Yep, looked like the 528's got a little bit below Beast before the reversal came in. They went for about a double. Take a look at those 29s. There we go.
Order canceled.
So on NQ, now we're getting up to test VWAP from below and those whole moving averages as resistance. We have to get through 660, 665 to be fully flipping these holes back to an upward trajectory.